All right, everybody. Excited to be recording another episode of Beyond the Deed and have a really special guest with me today, a longtime mentor, friend, Brett Henyon, the CEO and owner of Corporate Consulting, who myself and Universal Title have worked very closely with for a very long time. Over a decade ago, we started working with Brett, and he has been very influential in the growth of Universal Title through his consulting in the Recruit Select, Manage Lead Motivate series. And excited to talk with him today about not just the fundamentals of building a team and all the great things that I learned from him as I built my business, but some of the things that have changed since we've worked directly with Brett. So, Brett, thank you for joining me today, and
I
great to see
really,
you.
really appreciate the invite, and I've been excited to watch y'all's growth and everything that you're doing from the uh, local, national now perspective of title, and it's been exciting to watch.
Well, it's been an exciting ride, and as I said, you were very influential in helping us achieve a lot of the goals that we set for ourselves, both professionally and personally. And um, would love
I
to
appreciate
just
that. Thank you.
yeah, and it's fun to stay in touch and watch your family grow and our families just you know continue to do incredible things and so
Yeah, when we first met, our kiddos were super young and super small, and now they're all grown up,
yeah,
growing up.
it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. Um, but let's dive into some of the basics around building a team and for people that don't know the Recruit Select system and Manage Lead Motivate, give us a very high level overview of what you're working with other business owners, the challenges that they face as business owners and your process and some of the disciplines that you help them develop.
Absolutely. The recruit select process is really about quality and quantity. When you're getting the right person into the right job, and we look at something called behavioral job match, and then once you've brought the right person on board, how well are they trained? How well are they led, managed, and motivated? And how well do you market your business? And really good marketing starts internally with the mission, vision, and values of an organization, inspiring performance. And these processes work. They certainly work in title, mortgage, healthcare systems, engineering, really anything that has people,
Which is pretty much all businesses. I mean,
right?
um, I will say just personally, it has been the greatest challenge and yet most rewarding part of being a business owner is building a successful team. And yet before we started working with you and had a process to not perfect. I mean, I don't think you're ever going to perfect hiring and leading and managing people, but it's a lifelong journey of learning how to, from a hiring perspective, minimize the number of bad hires or not hiring the right person for a role and
Right.
trying to increase the likelihood of making that good hire because it changes your world. I mean,
Remember we talked about the something called the cost of errors of hiring
Mhm.
and what happens when you hire the right person into the wrong job.
Mhm.
People aren't bad. It's us as leaders that put great people into the wrong position. And do you remember that first exercise? What you guys as University Title identified as your cost of a bad hire?
Oh, I mean, there were a number of commas in it. I remember that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
It's opportunity cost. If
is
you're, if
across industry where that we often see the cost of one bad hire costing organizations millions of dollars.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember one client had one bad hire that cost the organization $62 million. And so people, when they push back on spending time building that intimate business relationship of a hire, no matter what your industry you're in, it has to be part of your day to day so that you're consistently doing it. Because if you're consistently meeting with new people and recruiting new people and growing, then your organization is going to grow. And Dave, you asked about team dynamics. The dynamic of who you have on your team, we're the sum of the five people that surround us. And if you've got talent that can replace you all around you, then it's impossible, relatively impossible, not to have just really organic growth within the team.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. And the timing of this conversation, I'm excited about because as someone in the larger real estate industry, obviously in an adjacent space, but the last 3 years, we all know that the real estate industry has been in a recession. I am very optimistic that we are climbing out of that, and a lot of businesses, ourselves included, are going to be growing and adding members to their team. And I think a lot of other businesses in the real estate space are probably thinking the same way. So, like, let's really revisit this topic of how do you how do you minimize the errors, or how do you go and find the best possible fit for your organization that's going to 5x, 10x, 100x return on that person
What
that you
what a
add.
what a great question. And you speak to the real estate market, and if you look over the last 50 years, there's always been dips, and then the real estate market always rebounds and rebounds higher than it was, from volume. And yeah, we're in a downtime right now, but it's gonna improve, and history's proven that. You ask, how do you find people? Well, there's all kinds of search engines out there. There's recruiters. There's many things that businesses are doing. But we have found, and dating back decades when the recruit select process was developed, we found that still the best method of recruiting is, who are the 5, 10, 15 people in your sphere that know and respect you and know and respect what you're doing and can provide you the names of potential candidates. And that takes away the same thing that we're all glued to of time, because you can't just pick up the phone and call numbers. You want to pick up the phone and call people that have been recommended from your sphere.
Hmm.
Uh, and so we kind of call that, they're already pre-screened.
Yeah,
So
I would say if there's one principle from Recruit Select that I would die on the hill for, it's that one. Like, if it's that you're going to get, not all the time, but consistently better candidates through that referral system of your network, because everybody knows people. Everybody has a network, and if you can tap into that network of people who know and respect you and want to see you add other talented, good people to your organization, you're increasing the likelihood of success. Like
right.
that probably, if someone takes away anything from Recruit Select, in my opinion, that's probably the most important lesson.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And then I would argue, a close tie with number one is having that right job match
Hmm.
from a recruit select standpoint, where that you've got a job really well defined behaviorally, and you're putting the right person into the right job.
Hmm.
All too often, I see in many industries where folks are putting a square peg into a round hole,
Hmm.
and it's it's often very difficult to transition those people out. But when you put the right person in the right job, there really isn't a need to transition them out because then they become part of the team.
Yeah, and that exploratory approach, right, that you take with candidates. I literally just had this happen on somebody we just hired into Universal Title, who in my initial screening interview for one job, by the time I was done with it, I didn't I didn't know for sure her behavioral style, but I was pretty certain that job that she was interviewing for was not the right job match. And there was another opportunity that eventually we hired her for. And through a conversation of behavior and job match, I described this other job and just she
So
lit up. She's like, "Oh, that sounds awesome." I was like, "Yeah, because it's
you
like
mean to
this
tell me
behaviorally."
as the CEO, when you're hiring a leadership level position, you're the one that's doing it. You're not having like HR take care of it.
Hmm.
You're actually doing interviews.
Yeah,
Why?
because it's that important.
So you're running a national company, but you're still spending time, face to face with
Mhm.
your future leaders.
Yeah,
Is- And
because it's that
and I think
important.
that's one of the missed pieces
Hmm.
often in businesses where, you climb that ladder and you're like, well, I don't, I'm hiring another leader, but I'll have someone else do it. I can leverage that out. How do you feel about leveraging out key hires?
I want to make sure that the people that are making those hires not only know the process, and been trained in the process, but also really know and are in line with the culture of the company. That mission and vision and values, because um, they need to take the same approach as I do. And if they're looking for somebody that doesn't have if they have a different perspective on that than I do, then the people we're bringing into the organization are going to reflect that.
And Dave, you said something that I love, and you talk about the culture of the company. And ever since we first started working together many years ago now, that you guys have always been focused on building the right culture, and making sure that people have that not only behavioral job match to the job, but behavioral job match to the team. And we would talk about this in the past where that you'd have a title attorney in one location, very different behaviorally than a title attorney in another location.
Hmm.
And what would happen if you swapped those two people?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can think of a couple of names where that you swap them and they're incredibly successful where they are,
Hmm.
and you put them in a completely different real estate market.
Hmm. But
Things change.
and also it's been a really fun experience watching some of those people build their own teams a little bit differently because they're different people, different behaviors, and yet uh, it works if they're really thinking through who do I need to add to my team to build that culture, build that dynamic, and succeed as a team.
Right. Remember we used to talk about Chuck Knoll, and with it, and Bill Walsh and flipping Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw.
Hmm.
If you put them on different teams, well, that's the example of a team dynamic,
Yeah.
where that you've got great leaders, but and great talent, but it also is a team dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. So So a couple things have changed since we were working with each other on a probably a weekly basis,
Just a few
if
things.
not weekly, certainly monthly. Back in the mid 2010s, a couple things have changed that I'm excited to get your perspective on. And I'd say the first one is the post-COVID work environment that we're still adapting to, in my opinion. It's still evolving and. Um, that didn't exist when we were working side by side for a number of years. How is that how has that changed the conversation and some of the challenges that your clients are facing where a lot of the workforce is still looking to work remotely, if not full time, at least part of the time, and yet I think from a business perspective, I mean, you've seen it with Amazon and Microsoft and all these big companies that are Google calling people back into the office.
Right.
And I think we feel as a medium-sized business, we're kind of in the same boat. Like there's an importance to being under the same roof. Like how has that changed the team dynamic and the hiring dynamic over the last 5 years?
It truly is huge, and I've got clients where that it did COVID didn't matter because they were on site. They had to be on site, and at the time when COVID happened, I was working with a company that it had most of their workforce remote, and during our time together, they started bringing people back in, and the most frequent pushback the Gen Zers, the younger folks, and
Mhm.
were that they it started to adapt to really that lifestyle of not having a 9 to 5, just having a work week, and the work week was, it wasn't 7 days a week, but I'm not saying that they were unbalanced. They're super balanced, and you know, you and I used to talk about the ideal balanced life and work, family, self and overriding spirituality and all of that, where that how do you have a true balance? Well, with bringing people back in, I've heard a lot of pushback,
Hmm.
and the challenge with that is uh, when you're working remotely, a key piece is often missed, and that is, we look at the three things for the performance triangle, and one of which is that we talked about already is behavioral job match, and the next piece is career rewards and benefits, but the third piece of that triangle is work environment and relationships. And I've seen this in time and time again across industry, where that you've got folks that aren't building that work environment and relationship piece, and folks are just jumping jobs.
Hmm.
And I still think that being able to be face to face, and I've got a group that one of the most successful things is, they call it their quad area, where people get together, they play foosball, there's hammocks in the work area. They bring friends into work when it's not work hours, and hang out at the office. And of course, that becomes an organic recruiting opportunity.
Hmm.
But um, the being face to face is very important. We talk about that intimate business relationship where you're having, you know what drives people. You know what their not just their business goals are, but what their personal goals are, what their big why is.
Hmm. Do you think, in just your professional opinion, can you build a successful business without that in-person dynamic? Like, can you do it? Have you seen clients do it where they have that working relationship and it's all remote, or do you have to have an element of in-person relationship that is created to have a successful team and a successful business?
I'm certainly very biased. I know this, and I'm coming from a position of bias when I answer this and say I don't think you can. Now, there are a lot of successful businesses out there that don't have that, and in the post-COVID era, there's a lot of folks that haven't called their people back, and their businesses are still growing. But when I think about that, I think about at what cost.
Hmm.
What skill sets are the people in the workforce learning to work with others when their work with others is strictly by camera and computer and remote.
Hmm.
So I think you build not only a better business, but better people skills, life skills, when you're working together in person.
Yeah, and then I mean, neither one of us are. Well, you have a medical background, EMT background. I have none of that, but I think there's a lot of data and information coming out just about mental health and like what a secluded work environment is doing to people's mental health and the benefit of having that interpersonal, interhuman contact on a daily basis. So I think that's a really also interesting and important
Right. And
piece
when
of
I,
it.
when I started EMS 30 plus years ago, we used to not even focus on, the mental health. It wasn't a priority, and now it really is. It's something that's discussed very thoroughly and
Hmm.
looking at individuals' mental health because we now know stuff that we didn't know before. We were, unconsciously incompetent on, and now we're consciously competent on really, what mental health does to success.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Great question. Yeah, it's a good point.
So, one of the other big changes that has evolved since you and I were working so closely together is the entry of a new generation of workers into the workforce. When we were working together, we were talking about the millennials. I'm technically a Gen Xer, right in between X and millennials.
Right.
But now it's the Gen Z generation. So combine that with the last 5 years of COVID and remote work, you introduce a new generation. What are you seeing show up as some of the challenges and maybe some of the suggested solutions to those challenges for businesses that are now hiring this next generation of workers?
Well, Dave, I don't want to alienate an entire generation with this answer, or be referred to as the crotchety old guy. But the workforce has changed from uh, the like I alluded to earlier, the 9 to 5
Hmm.
really doesn't exist. And there are the exceptions. I get that, but the idea of, I'm going to get my work done, but I might get it done at 9 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go spend time with my family. I'm gonna hang out with my friends. We always talked about the self circle and having that balance of, where you've got the five F's: faith, family, friends, fitness, and fun. Well, the Gen Zs really focus on, those five F's, and it comes down to leadership accountability and really where they can remain balanced but also get their work done. And it can be really successful with some guardrails in place.
Yeah.
But I've seen it be very unsuccessful, and then the folks run into cost of errors.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think
Have you?
that comes down to when you're doing that, we call it the comprehensive interview, outlining, the expectations and finding out what they really want. What are some of their big personal goals, and if 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 I have a client that says, well, I've got a new hire that wants to travel, 320 days of the year, I would encourage them to move in another direction with that candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like personal goals, which is a big part of what we did together. Um, I have found just anecdotally that speaking, and it's always been a big part of what's important to me and to our company, like tapping in and connecting with people on the personal goals that they have and
I
using
love that you embrace that. That's so great.
and it was a result of you sitting Jennifer and I in a conference room saying, what are your someday goals? What are your 5 year, 1 year goals? And um, now it's more about what are my people's goals. But I've found that conversation again, I just sense that conversation is resonating even deeper with the next generation, the Gen Zers. Um, and I almost feel like I have a little bit of a competitive advantage uh, when I talk that language because they're not used to hearing businesses talk that way.
A lot of business leaders are afraid. They think they're stepping over a boundary of of, what are some of your personal goals? Well, we teach setting that up in the initial interview process of Recruit Select, where that your goal is to understand the individual sitting across from you, and what their big why is. The first question of the comprehensive interview is your highs and lows. Things you're most proud of, things you're least proud of. Walk me back all the way from the day that you graduated high school, and it really does build that relationship. And I'll throw it back to you and say, with your personal goals, how did you align that with your business goals? What was one of the things that you found most successful with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of overlap. There's a lot of connection between, well, for me there was, and I think that's part of the exercise is checking for alignment and making sure that if you have big personal goals, that your business goals are going to be able to deliver the results that you're looking for on the personal side. Because as much as I love what I do, I don't wake up every day to close, more settlements and do more title. I wake up every day and work hard because of what I want to, build in my life. And I think everybody is that way. Like this should be a vehicle to living a big life. And if you set big goals and big personal goals and small business goals,
They're not going to work out
it's
too
not going to
well.
work. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But conversely, I think if you set really big business goals, and don't really focus on personal goals, then really, what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
and sometimes, and I've been there. Like sometimes you need a little reality check. Like, what are you doing this for? Like, dig a little deeper. What's important in your life that you're working so hard on the business side that you want to show up on the personal side, and it's different for everybody,
Did you ever
as
get
it
any
should be.
pushback? Did you ever get any pushback from folks when you were doing your one-on-ones with them, and really digging in and challenging them with some stretch goals, and some challenging goals from the personal aspect? Did you ever get any pushback from people on their personal goals? And the folks that pushed back, are they still with you? Are they still part of your team?
Um, that's a good question. Um, I definitely got pushback. And trying to think of a specific example of where I did and if they're still with us. I want to say no, they're
And,
not.
and the
And
folks that actually really embraced that uh,
yeah,
goal setting and setting those action plans and those, setting some big goals,
yeah,
call
yeah.
them generational goals, where that, so of those folks, are those some of your most successful ones?
Yes. And I think it's twofold. One, they have that alignment between what they want to achieve in life and what they want to achieve on the business side and using the business and in this case universal title to meet those goals. But I also think that there's alignment with me and where I wanted to go. And interestingly enough, and I want to say you kind of forewarned me of this
Uh-oh.
10 or 12 years ago, like, hey, you're gonna bring people into your organization who have big goals. And if your goals aren't big enough to fit their goals into your world, like you're probably going to lose them at some point. And so as we've continued to build the business and Jennifer and I have talked about like what do we want to do next? Like how do we want to keep growing the business? Part of that consideration is, well, we've got to build it in order to be big enough to have some of our top people keep growing themselves. And that's a big part of why we keep building the business is to make sure that other people can achieve everything they want to achieve.
Right, and that also leads into some recession. Some uh, where the I'm trying to spit this out, but it leads into what your next step is. Who can actually replace you?
Hmm.
Um, and I encourage folks to bring people within their sphere, within their top five people. Of I want you to hire somebody that can take your job,
Yeah.
that maybe can do it better than you. And a lot of business leaders are afraid of that.
Hmm.
Where that, gosh, I don't want to hire somebody that can actually take my job away.
Hmm.
Well, fire yourself and move up the ladder.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I'm not quite there yet, but yeah. uh
You've got 40 or what, 35 more states to go. I don't know. Yeah, you've got a few more states to go.
yeah, well, we don't want to be in all of them. Just just a couple of,
Right.
we want to go big in certain areas.
Absolutely. And
That's our
you
model.
guys have done such a great job with that. And since we were working together, I've just been watching from afar and watching your growth and what you and Jennifer have been doing is phenomenal. And I know that the leaders that you have around you are loving what they're doing.
Yeah, that has probably been the most rewarding part of building this business in this company, which is like some of the great relationships and friendships that have been able to build with long-term people on the team. Where some of our first hires, some of them we got lucky, and some of them we actually went through the process and created our own luck. But yeah, a decade plus later, we're still working together, and it we a little grayer and little
Yeah,
less hair, but
a lot grayer, but that's okay. I won't attribute that to the job.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, Brett, this has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. This topic of building a team and uh, working through and understanding behavior and alignment and goal setting. Uh, it is one of the things that I find most enjoyable about running a business, and so this gives me a lot of energy to
I
have this
appreciate that.
conversation with you, since you're the expert in all this and have helped us so much, helped me so much, and so I appreciate you taking the time and seeing you, and maybe we can do it again.
Hey, I'll be up in DC on Saturday.
Well, I'll be in New Jersey for hockey, so
Ah, okay.
say hi to DC for me. I don't get to spend very many weekends here, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, good luck in the hockey game.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, my friend. Thank you so much.